Hi! How are you doing today? We're back in my garage for the first ever interview that I'm going to be giving as part of our post-Ken Ham and Bill Nye Creationism Debate. Think of it as a post-game review of the highlights of that particular debate. With me today I've got a friend, Chuck Mueller. He is a physics instructor at a local college, and we were able to watch the debate together. Had some thoughts about it. How you doing?
I had all kinds of thoughts about it. It's really great to be here, man. So, where do we want to start with this? Do we want to start with general impressions about what we thought?
Yeah, general impressions, thoughts on the debate.
Well, let me tell you, what I think Ken Ham was trying to do, he was trying to call what he was doing science, in that he was taking the same observations that scientists have been making for hundreds of years, and he was trying to reinterpret them using his theory of young Earth creationism.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the trouble with that, he can't use his young Earth creationist theory to make any new predictions. There is nothing in young Earth creationism that he can say, if you do this test, it will demonstrate that I am right and that evolution is wrong.
And yeah, Nye kept pounding on that throughout the whole debate. I think he had like 3 core things he was trying to push through the debate. You can't predict anything with this. You gotta take this guy's word for it that everything that he's saying is true.
Well, this guy being the Bible.
This guy, Ken Ham, his interpretation of the Bible.
Okay, that's fair.
As literal. Yeah. That you're not gonna grow through
that is what Bill Nye was trying to say. He was trying to say that there is nothing you can, there's nothing new being done, there's nothing new that you can say with young Earth creationism. It's just a different way of interpreting the same things. And I think that the main problem that I have with that is that it doesn't lead to any actual curiosity about the world. When you say that all the answers are in the Bible, then why should we go looking for answers for anything? Why should we go exploring anything? Why should we look for new fossils? Why should we explore space? There's no reason to do any of that because God put it all there, and if He wanted us to go look at it, He would have given us space wings.
Or He would have put them closer to us.
Yeah, He would have. Like, if He wanted us to look at the sun, we could just point at it in the sky and like say, "Look, there it is." But it turns out we can learn so many more things about the universe and how beautiful it is just by looking for things and doing the scientific process instead. I think that whereas science embraces that curiosity, embraces that desire to understand our world, young Earth creationism shuts all that down and just says, "Don't worry about it. Bible's got it." But that's what hurts me the most personally, is that sense of curiosity is just wiped out.
My thing from a philosophical point of view is if you know how it began, and you know how it's going to end, and you know all the in-between stuff, then why are you alive?
So what you're saying is that, like, the reason that we're alive is to be curious and to explore the world around us.
Yeah. Did God do that just to, be a dick again to mankind? It's like, yeah, it's all right here, now just live through it.
Well, and I think a lot of scientists would agree with you. A lot of the reason that scientists got into science is because they were curious about the world around them. That's a very cool way to look at it. I think that can't assume that everyone feels that way, though. You can't assume that everyone wants to be curious about the world around them. Some people are just trying to get by. Some people need to have answers. And I think that's what, creationism, and I think that's religion provides people.
The general religion.
Yeah, religion in general provides people with answers to questions that are unable to be answered by science, perhaps better answers that satisfy that person more than the scientific answers do in some cases. Like Ken Ham is not satisfied with the answers that science gives him, so he has young Earth creationism to give him what he needs. I don't think less of any religious people. I think that religious people are great, but when you have someone like Ken Ham and he tries to call that science, that's when I have a problem. Because that means he wants to walk into my science classroom and say that the things that I'm telling people are wrong and that this 2,000-year-old book is correct. And it's just not. There are lots of ideas that we have disproven from the Bible, and there are lots of scientific things that we just demonstrate are not true. We need to show that, we need to demonstrate that the scientific principles that we know, the laws of nature that we are aware of, are the best ideas that we have for how the entire world works. That's more important in a science classroom. You want to go to a religion classroom, I'm not going to go to a religion classroom and tell them how to do their thing.
You totally need this and that to walk on water. That's not possible.
I would never go into a religion classroom and tell the religion teacher how to teach about what they do. I feel like people like Ken Ham want to come into my science classroom and tell me and all my colleagues how to do our job.
And they have successfully done it in at least 2 states. The whole
That's
state.
True.
The whole state.
Well,
Tennessee
you're talking about
Louisiana.
Well, and you're talking and yeah, no, that's definitely happened, and that's unfortunate, but that's a part of the political process. Unfortunately, some of these things are guided not by scientific reason, but are guided by the emotions and the voting public. But that doesn't change scientific consensus, it turns out.
Another thing that I think is interesting about the entirety of their timeline. You know, it's the Earth is 4,400 or 6,000 years old or whatever.
10,000, I think, was also thrown around there for a little bit.
Yeah, and so we're talking about this book, the Bible, that was written 2,000 years ago. It was the book that Ken Ham is talking about was written 2,000 years before that, approximately. Long story short, Bill and I mentioned the game of telephone. You know, that the last time anything was added to or really written in the Bible as we know it today was about 2,000 years ago. So when that book was written, did it not have the same problem already?
So when Ken Ham talks about historical science versus observational science, he says we observe things today and we can make predictions based on that. And that's what he says that us scientists are doing, observational science. We're looking at the world around us as it is today, and then deciding how things were in the past. But where he says is that no, how things were in the past was different. That's what he calls historical science, right? And so the trouble is that if he says the Earth is 10,000 years old, but he's getting that reference from a 2,000-year-old book, does he think there were people around back then to report that in the book? And can we trust that? Because, well, none of us were there.
Oh, but God wrote it.
Yeah, no, he makes that argument several times. You don't know that the Big Bang happened, 14 billion years ago. You weren't there. So therefore, we have no idea that this actually happened.
You weren't there to say I didn't.
Yeah, right. But that's the thing you could obviously throw in his face. You weren't there to say that it didn't happen. He'll come back with probably some. If I assume he'll come back with something like, well, the Bible tells me that things were created this way, but you still weren't there. That's why he's trying to appropriate the terms of science. So what Ken Ham is doing is he's engaging in pseudoscience. He's engaging in the process of cloaking himself in the words of science and the guise of science. What he's doing is not testable. It's not falsifiable. It can't be proven wrong. There's no way we can test that the Earth is 10,000 years old as opposed to 13.4 billion years old. In fact, we can test that the Earth is 13.4 billion years old. We have data, we've taken it, we understand that the stars are all flying apart, and if you follow that all backwards, if you figure, okay, well, the stars are all flying apart, how long would it take them to all be in the same spot if we ran the tape backwards? That comes out to about 13.4 billion years. All Ken Ham has is a book that says that the Earth is probably about 10,000 years old. Maybe, even though it doesn't actually make any claims about that.
Yeah, it never actually says the age of the Earth. The way they got the age of the Earth was a religious scholar in the 15th century, the 1600s. And he did the math of all the generations in the Bible to figure out this alleged age of the Earth. And Ken Ham is now piggybacking on that now defunct belief, defunct in all the churches still.
Yeah, the church doesn't even really think that. At least not the Catholic Church. I mean, that depends who you ask. I'm sure that there's a religious sect out there that will say that that's the case and that everyone else is wrong, that they believe that. That doesn't make any of that actually real, though. What makes things, as far as we can tell, true is the scientific theory. Things can be true to a particular person. People can believe things are true, but that doesn't. But when it comes to actual truth, you need data, you need observations, and you need to have sound scientific reasoning based around it. And that's what the scientific process does. We make observations, we make reasonable assumptions about them, and then we test those assumptions by taking more data. That's the scientific process. Ken Ham does not engage in that process. What he says is, I'm going to take all this data that other people have taken, reinterpret it in a different way, and then he's going to stop. He never says at any point, if the Earth were 10,000 years old, I would be able to show it by doing this test. That never happened. In fact, when Ken Ham was asked, what would it take for you to change your mind? He said nothing.
I am a Christian.
Exactly. He said, I'm a Christian. I believe in the truth in the Bible. Now, compare that with what Bill Nye said. What Bill Nye said was, if there were evidence for this, I would have to change my mind.
Yeah, he has to do that to still claim to be a scientist.
Right. That's what scientists do. When there is new information and it's legit information, we change our mind. Scientists do this all the time. We've been doing it ever since a good example of this is in the theory of the solar system. That's changed several times over the past, couple millennia. And every time we've done it, it's been in the face of new evidence that disproves the old theory, and we come up with a new theory. That's what scientists do. But what that also means is that every scientific theory that we ever have created has the possibility to be proven wrong. Every single one. Tomorrow we could find out that when you throw things up into the air, they will keep going in the air and never come back down. Tomorrow we could find that out, and then we'd have to alter science as we know it. But the fact that we throw things up in the air every day and they all come back to our hand demonstrates things like the law of conservation of energy, it demonstrates how gravity works, it demonstrates all these scientific principles that we've built up. But there are ways that all those things could be proven wrong just by throwing something up in the air and it never, ever, ever coming back. All of those theories that we have are falsifiable. They're able to be proven wrong. Ken Ham's ideas are never able to be proven wrong. Because anytime, and he admits this himself when he says nothing would ever change my mind because I'm a Christian.